Good evening, everyone. Welcome to AIWF Ringside Wrestling. It's Thursday night. You know what that means. We are on the air here on Facebook Live as well as Zoom. I see Bobby Dalton is joining us. Let me see if anybody else is in the waiting room that I can see. Not yet. So anyway, good to have you along, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Bobby. How you doing tonight, buddy? And we're still waiting for Bobby's internet to connect. It's still saying connecting to audio. So. And Joey Nuggs is coming in as well. So a lot of interesting happenings going on, and we've got a lot of cool announcements with some indie shows coming up. Joey Nuggs, welcome to the program. The Prophet Joey Nuggs is with us. Wrestling and MMA aficionado Bobby Dalton is with us, the voice of the Galax Fiddlers Convention.
Hello, everybody out there in video land, Zoom call.
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
How's everybody doing?
Good. Preparing for an exciting weekend of wrestling. And Bobby, I know you're up in the mountains. Are you getting any snow up there yet? We've got some coming to Concord tonight.
Hey, that's a cuss word up here, but now actually this weekend we're going to get to avoid it because it's going to stay south of here, but it's been a little on the chilly side. But so. We manage.
And
we're not as fortunate as Mr. Nuggs are not have to get any.
Yeah, you need to move further south down here like I did to South Carolina. We had that torrential storm the other day. We had ice fell for a little while and rain the rest of the time. And then the next day it melted. Yeah, it was nothing was left. And I'm not bragging about that. I was happy that that's how it went down, honestly, because it could have been worse.
Yeah,
you got all these grocery stores.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Let me get the slideshow going, and we'll go through our announcements because we do have quite a few. And so, okay, for advertising inquiries with AIWF Ringside Wrestling, including at live events, the AIWF Roku channel, $10 a month will get you a 1 to 2 minute read on this show. Reach out to us at AIWF20@hotmail.com or reach out to me directly on Facebook. We'd love to have you there. We run the bulk of our shows in Mount Airy, North Carolina, at Veterans Park, but, it's not. You can see this show everywhere. I mean, it's streaming on Facebook now. You can join the Zoom meeting. We put it up on YouTube, usually on Friday. So we'll get you a lot of bang for your buck, no doubt about it, for only $10 a month. But again, that email address is AIWF20@hotmail.com. We are on Instagram now. I notice we're picking up some followers there. I am doing my best to get you some more content. As a matter of fact, hopefully, if the weather holds, I'll be doing a special report from Spartanburg, South Carolina this Saturday night as the Rock and Roll Express begin their farewell tour. They've got a big match coming up at Memorial Auditorium this Saturday night at 7:30, I believe, is the bell time. And they're going to be taking on FTR from AEW and former WWE Tag Team Champions, NXT Tag Team Champions. One of the most decorated teams of the modern era, no doubt about it. And that is going to be a very interesting matchup. Also on the card that night, Jerry the King Lawler is going to put his crown on the line against George South and his jacket. And that is going to be a very entertaining matchup for sure. And so if you're anywhere in the Spartanburg area or anywhere within 100 miles, I would encourage you to go on Ticketmaster and secure your tickets for that. The Memorial Auditorium is one of the most fantastic venues for wrestling I have ever attended. And I'd be honest with you folks, even if the matches are terrible, I will have a great time just sitting in that building and listening to that crowd. They are great wrestling fans, no doubt about it. So, all right.
Talking me into wanting to go to the event, actually.
I know you should, man. You can go to the event, see something live instead of watching TV. You can always DVR the UFC. But I'm not, hey, it's entirely up to you. It's going to be a great night. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to, again, our first sponsor and only sponsor of the show right now is Branch Management that operates out of Mount Airy. in the Surrey County area of North Carolina. They can help you with branches that are maybe too close to structures, property owners, liability issues right there, normal pruning, or complete tree removal. They offer very competitive rates and free estimates and are here to serve you. And you also may be eligible for a $100 referral bonus. All you need to do is call 336-325-5300 for more information or to set up an appointment. Again, that telephone number, as you can see it there on your screen, 336-325-5300 for more information or to set up an appointment. All right, let's get into the wrestling announcements. Here we go. Coming up this weekend, January 22nd, that's Saturday night, Paris, Texas. Get ready, 325 Clement Road. Big wrestling action being brought to you by Knucklehead Productions and American Pride Championship Wrestling. Pretty good value there, $15 for adults, $20 for a couple. So can't beat that. Bring a date and get in at a discounted rate, $20. So that'll get you in for $10 a piece. So save you $5 if you bring a date.
Yeah,
so,
it doesn't say that it has to be the opposite sex.
No, it does not. You know, they don't care,
So
man.
a couple. I mean, you could walk in there and say, "Hey, this is my boyfriend or girlfriend," and you're in there like swimwear.
Yep, there you go. And yeah, wrestling promoters generally don't discriminate. All money is green and spends the same.
You got that right, brother.
Also, our friends at Alternative Wrestling Showcase, an AIWF affiliate, presenting the Mystery Brawl. This is coming up Sunday, January 23rd at 1742 Nessus Highway, Orangeburg, South Carolina, and the fans choose the matches. That's going to be interesting. We talked about it a little bit last week. I know our friend of the show, Michael King, is involved heavily. I think King Enterprises is trying to take over that promotion. But that's coming your way. The Mystery Brawl, 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and that is in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Guys, what do you think? I mean, fans choose the matches. I've never heard of anything like this before in any wrestling, independent or otherwise.
I don't know. I've seen all kinds. I've seen all kinds of things where matches were computer generated, but I've never. But as far as a fan, what are they going to do? Say that there's a total. I mean,
harken back to the days of Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday. You know, it was you voted on what you wanted to see in the match, but
right.
it wasn't just completely left up to the fans. So that's an interesting concept. I hope it works out well for them. Only $5 to get in. So an amazing value there.
Hey, if it helps them draw a crowd, hey, I'm all for it.
Yep, absolutely. Orangeburg, South Carolina, the home of Shelton Benjamin, and now the home of the Mystery Brawl, brought to you by AWS, coming up Sunday at 4 o'clock. All right, Nuclear Warfare. This is Empire Pro Wrestling, our friends down in OKC. It is Saturday night, January 29th. It's at 4605 South Pennsylvania Avenue in OKC, and the bell time is at 6 p.m. on that. All tickets just $10. That's Empire Pro Wrestling. They present Nuclear Warfare 2. That comes your way Saturday night, January 29th in Oklahoma City. All tickets just $10 for this one. So great value there as well. You don't want to miss it if you're in the OKC area. Also, Bad Boys of Wrestling coming your way to the Augusta Fairgrounds. Also Saturday, January 29th. Guest on the show a few weeks ago, Jasmine Hayo, is going to be challenging Divine for the women's title. Again, that's at the Augusta Fairgrounds, 308 Hale Street in Augusta, Georgia. VIP tickets $12, general admission $10. Bell time is 8 p.m. for this one. For more info, you can call 706-945-2676. Again, the telephone number to call for more information, 706-945-2676. All right, American Hostile Championship Wrestling returns to Malden, Missouri. This is coming up February 12th at the Malden Community Center, 607 North Douglas Street, ringside $10, general admission $8. Advanced tickets are $1 off, although on this advertisement it doesn't show me how to get advanced tickets. I would encourage you to search them out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. They're going to be out there somewhere. I got this off the AIWF Network page. If anybody with American Hostile Championship Wrestling would like to reach out to us and let us know a phone number or something that they could call to get advance tickets, that would be great. Or
maybe you can contact the Malden Community Center right there on North Douglas Street directly. Maybe they might know. 607 North Douglas Street. Maybe that might be a good place to start.
Yep, there you go. Throw it in your Google machine, Malden Community Center, and give them a call and see what's going on. So Missouri, get ready. Big championship wrestling action coming your way on February 12th. And finally, back home with our home base group, AIWF Mid-Atlantic is coming your way on Saturday, February 5th at Veterans Park in Mount Airy, sponsored by King's Hot Dogs. Tickets $8 ringside. General admission is $6. Doors open at 4. And remember, guys, through the winter months, we're doing a special $5 5 p.m. bell time. So, because it get a little chilly in the building, the grandstand at the park sometime. But the action will be hot, that's for sure, no matter what the weather's like. And still waiting on some match announcements. I spoke with Commissioner Rick Diesel a couple of days ago, and they are just putting the final touches on the card. They've got everything put together, and we are just waiting on the matches to be finalized. But again, we've heard a rumor that Joey Nuggs, your man Jack, is going to be going up against Dangerous E. Corey Etzel that night. Is there anything further that you can tell us? Have you seen the contract yet? What's the status of that matchup?
Nothing has changed thus far. Nothing has come across my desk. It is the same as before. Nothing has been finalized at all. Nothing. I haven't seen anything thus far.
Okay. All right. So that's coming your way on Saturday, February 5th. I think that's all the announcements I've got. Yep, there's a picture of Nate Diamond right before he got hit by Kevin Phoenix at the end of our last show. And it looks like Bobby Dalton's internet has frozen in mid-sneeze. Anyway. Oh, I can still see your picture's not moving, though.
He looks like he's ready to get his pip hand on. Get up out of here.
All right.
Pip hand down.
I was thinking about, since we don't really have many show announcements, any pressing news as far as AIWF Mid-Atlantic or the affiliates go. Although I will tell you this, the anniversary show weekend is going to be happening in March this year.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be on, let me get my handy dandy calendar out here because I can't see the one on the wall from here. Hang on a second.
March 5th and 6th.
Yes, 5th and 6th. And they're actually, which is the Saturday and Sunday. They're actually talking about there's such a huge response that might actually extend out to the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow.
This is going to be fabulous. They said that there are affiliates representing all over the world that are coming into Mount Airy. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there even if I don't get a chance to manage any wrestlers. I'm going there just to rub elbows and hand out business cards and talk to some of the big shots in the AIWF.
Probably a good idea,
Definitely.
It's going to be almost like a convention atmosphere that weekend.
Yes, definitely.
Sure. And of course, the big Capital Punishment show is going to be coming up on March 19th. So going to be a lot of wrestling in Mount Airy over the next couple of months. And we certainly invite you to join us for that. So guys, we kind of talked about last week, classic wrestling venues that we all liked. And Bobby talked about Roanoke Civic Center, which I agree is great. Joey, you talked about some of the places in the Northeast that you've been.
Yeah.
And I've talked about the places around the Carolinas, like I was talking about earlier, just going to Spartanburg to listen to the crowd. Let me ask you, each of you, and whoever wants to go first, what was the first wrestling promotion that you ever saw? How old were you? And how long did it take you to get hooked?
The first one I ever saw was up actually in Hillsville back in the early 70s. It was some little indie promotion. I forgot who they were. But I used to follow some guys, and you probably know him out of Roanoke, Virginia, Mike Weddle, as the guy they call Eclipso. And his gang used to come up here to Carroll County quite often. And I used to go to all their shows, and I seen Jim Nelson before he became Board Zukov, and, you know, Rick McCord and some of those guys. And that's how I got hooked into it.
Now, Bobby, they you naming off some people in the 70s, you know, Jim Nelson and whatnot. So this promotion was running in Hillsville, and they were running Outlaw in the Crockett territory then. Is that correct? Was Crockett coming to Hillsville at the time?
Well, Crockett was doing shows. He had done some up in Pulaski. He'd actually done some in Carroll County. But then after they quit coming back in the late 80s, a friend of mine named David Bobbitt used to bring the NWA to Carroll County High School. And Carroll County High School has the distinction of having the very first WCW card ever. The first show of WCW happened in the late 80s at Carroll County High School.
Really? So when the company went to Turner, Carroll County High School hosted the first WCW show.
Right. And that was, if I'm not mistaken, Lex Luger, Arn and Tully was there. I think not Kendall. Yeah, Kendall Wyndham was there, of course, and a bunch of others. But yeah, that used to be the thing up there. I mean, they used to run up there. You know, that's how I got in touch with Jimmy Valiant, Black Bart, and you know that was in the heyday before they all went national and got the big heads. I mean, the promoters, that is, like, you know, McMahon and all those guys.
Yeah, it's definitely in the early 70s. Yeah,
right.
Definitely territory days back then. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. How about you, Joey Nuggs?
Mine was WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, when it was still under, what was his name? Gushenberg, as well as Vince McMahon Sr. were the two promoters at the same time. Yeah, that was when it was still territory up in New York, and they used to run, because of the difference in price in cable, they used to run on Friday nights at 11:30 out of WNR out of on Channel 9 out of, believe it or not, it was out of Secaucus, New Jersey. Channel 9 is what they ran off of. And we used to get it on local cable. Before that, when I was real young, when I first started watching it, we had on rabbit ears, and you had to go up on the roof and turn your antenna. And my dad would get down there early in the day, and we'd say, "How about now? No, a little bit. Whatever you did before, go back that way. How about now?" And he'd play up there on the rabbit ears and get it perfect. And then it'd be funny. Yeah, Friday night, even though it was a school night, I mean, I didn't have school the next day. Mom still made me go to bed early. So Dad would wake me up at like 11:15. He said, "Shh, wake up, boy." I'd wake up, and he said, "Quiet." He goes, "I got popcorn popped and drinks downstairs." And we go downstairs, and he said, "Be quiet now. Don't wake your mom up." And it would come on. About the third match would come on. Something would happen. You hear Dad scream at the TV, "You son of a gun, you shut up." And Mom would come down the steps and put her head around the corner, shake her head. And then she'd look over and say, "You too?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "You know the rules." I said, "Yes, ma'am." As soon as it's over, back upstairs. I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah.
I remember that, though. But the first time I seen live wrestling, it came to my hometown in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, Bishop Newman High School. That was a Catholic high school. It came to first. Fabulous Moolah, Playboy Buddy Rose was there. Steve Lombardi, Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund was champion then. Magnificent Don Morocco. Who else was a big name that was there?
I'm trying to picture so we're looking around 82, 83 then.
Yeah,
right?
the first. Now, I had watched it for years, but this was the first year it actually came to my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, before that, you had to go out of town, and good luck to that. At that point, my dad wasn't addictive enough that he would get in the car and drive to one of the Madison Square Garden or the Philadelphia Spectrum. That was later down the road when I could get him to talk. I talked him into that. But when it came, yeah, and I remember it was a choice of, he had two tickets. he had 2 tickets. He had one for himself and one for my mom. And my mom was like, I really don't want to go. She goes, well, I got 2 tickets to go to the show. He goes, why don't you take your son? You know, he's crazier about wrestling than you are. And he looked at me, and I was jumping up and down. I was biting my lip, and he was just like, I was like, hey, he looks at me, and goes, you want to go to wrestling? I said, is this a trick question? Yeah, I want to go to wrestling. Dad said, be ready at 6 o'clock Friday night.
Yeah. So, wow.
I was ready at 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. Wait for him to come home from school.
Well, see, I remember my dad watching wrestling on TBS in the early 80s. So it was already being called World Championship Wrestling, but it was Georgia Championship Wrestling. And that's the first guy, but I was so little. I was only like maybe 5 or 6 years old. And those guys standing there hollering and yelling at the camera, you know, it scared me as a little kid. Mm-hmm. But then when I got a little bit older, I'll never forget this. We went to, Bobby, you remember Roanoke Lakeside Park, right? Well, a couple of the.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So this will all come together. So just stay with me, I promise. All right. So it was me and my mother and another group from another mother from our church. And she had 2 kids, Michael and Kelly. And I won't say their last names on here because they might not appreciate that. Right. And they took us up for a day in Roanoke. We started out and had lunch at Showbiz Pizza, which is Chuck E. Cheese now. But back then there was actually 2 different ones. There was Showbiz and there was Chuck E. Cheese. And then we went over to Lakeside Park. And then we came home that night. Our parents wanted to talk for a while, and the kids were like, hey, come downstairs and watch wrestling with us. And they're like, you ever seen wrestling before? And I was like, no. And that's like my daddy watches it sometimes, but I don't really like it. And when we watched Worldwide, JCP, it was 1986, and it came on at 11:30. Bobby, I know you remember this on WSET, Channel 13 out of Lynchburg. And yeah. The way they reacted to it, I was like, wow, man, this is pretty cool. And so I started watching that, and then I found the cartoon on Saturday mornings, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, and got interested in that, you know, because Hulk was just like a superhero come to life in the 80s. Yeah. I'm telling you. Like, you know, little kids now, I mean, I don't know what to compare it to, really. But it was like a comic book that had just come to life, you know, and that stuff wasn't as common. You know, now we've got Disney Plus, and they've got, you know, John Cena's got a show where he plays a superhero and stuff like that. That's cool. We had movies and stuff too, but to actually see this comic book guy in real life come out and just beat somebody's brains out, it was just little 10-year-old me's mind was blown. And so then wrestling was so hot in the Carolinas in the 80s, the stations that did not have, more in the Carolinas, not so much in Virginia. Those stations were pretty loyal to JCP in the Roanoke market. But in the Carolinas, see, we lived in Martinsville, so we could get the Carolinas stations on cable and rabbit ears, the Greensboro stations, the same as we could the Roanoke. So we actually had the benefit of being able to get TV from 2 different markets. So I could see the WWF programming on the stations in Greensboro and Winston-Salem that did not have the JCP programming. But wrestling was so hot, they carried WWF, even though they didn't run down here at the time. Right. You know, but the wrestling was so hot, the TV was highly rated. And WWF tried to come down here a few times in the late 80s after Crockett closed up, or right before Crockett closed up, and did not draw. They only drew 3,000 people, I think I heard the other day, to Greensboro with Hulk and Andre on top. Can you believe that? Mm-hmm. And they go have the same match in Milwaukee at the ballpark. This was in 88, and drew upwards of 40,000. So, you know, people down here just weren't ready for WWF at the time. And I don't really remember WWF getting a foothold in Greensboro until like 97. And so
I don't think they did.
Yeah. The first show I remember we were actually having a show, AIWF was in 97 in Bassett, Virginia at the community center. And our crowd was down that night because some of our hardcore fans had gone to Greensboro to see WWF because it had never come, in recent years to the area. So that was a big deal for me, but that's how I first got into it. The first wrestling I remember really being into was JCP. And I thought it was cool because they had all their big matches in Greensboro. But I couldn't get my dad to take me to wrestling until January of 1988. And if you guys remember the bench press challenge between the Powers of Pain and the Road Warriors, where they broke Animal's orbital bone, I was there.
Wow.
At that show. Yes, I was there. And that was my first wrestling experience. And what was funny is my relative and my dad's brothers and sisters, when he's like, boy, he sure likes wrestling. He sure watches it a lot. And they're like, well, you need to take him to live wrestling. I remember them saying this. You need to take him to live wrestling because then he'll be able to see the fake in it and he won't like it no more.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Exactly.
I was like throwing gasoline.
I don't know what wrestling shows they've been going to. At Cousin Lanny's barn down in Dry Fork. But, we went to see Crockett Promotions in Greensboro, and that, boy, it had the exact opposite effect. God, as a matter of fact, I joined the amateur wrestling team as soon as I could after that because I just thought that wrestling was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And still to this day, my wife will tell you, I watch it ad nauseum. So,
Matt, one thing that happened, though, one time, I remember, he's talking about the Roanoke station, WSLS. They used to have it Saturdays at 12.
Yeah.
I remember one time when Blackjack Mulligan and his son left Crockett Promotions, they went to some area, I don't forget what it was, had Wayne Ferris and some of those in. They started carrying that wrestling for about a month. It wasn't long till they switched back to Crockett because the ratings and the people, they just didn't like it. So they went back to Crockett stuff. But also, in Roanoke, Channel 27 started showing the WWE back in the late 80s. And that's the first as far as regular television that they had down here. I'm like, y'all, the only first time I seen WWE was in the 80s. That was my cousin's satellite dish, the old big old dish. And that was when they used to show the cars from Madison Square Garden. That was
I'm the opposite, Bobby. I grew up in central Pennsylvania. I didn't get a chance to see real wrestling until it reached the Superstation. That was the first time I got to see NWA. Before that, I lived vicariously through the After Megs. Every Wednesday, they would come out, and I would get on my bike and ride 6 miles to the local newsstand that carried the magazines, and I'd buy the new magazines that would come out every Wednesday. Wow. So I read about, all the different territories, Portland. I read about, California territory, read about, out in, what is it? The Detroit territory out there with the original Sheik, and then, and I always read about down south with all the Crockett, Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, all that, until it actually hit the TV. That was something different to see.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you guys a nugget that I've heard a couple of years ago when World Class had the Von Erichs and they were all living. Had the oldest brother had not died in Japan, his dad, Fritz, was getting ready to make a deal with 2 stations out of Texas to make a super station. And if they had came together, they would have been almost equal to the McMahons as far as that company. But when he passed away, I think Fritz I don't know what he did. He just didn't go through with it. And it makes you wonder what the landscape of the sport would have been had his son not passed away in Texas from, the accidental overdose that he had.
Well, didn't that happen in Japan? Didn't he? Yeah, he did. Well, I'm not going to get into that. If you want to find out what happened to David Von Erich, just go online, look it up. I don't want to, bring that up. But in all seriousness, man, the kid was talented, man. You go back and look at the Texas, we used to call it Texas wrestling, WCCW World Class.
Oh,
you
yeah.
go back and look at some of those shows, man, on the Peacock. Man, David could go, man. He was good. No doubt about it. Talented bunch, the Von Erichs were. And see, we used to get the Texas, what we called it Texas wrestling. We would get that on ESPN. And so I think that they had a pretty good reach with that.
I remember we had Southwest, and then they did they had Southwest Wrestling, which was Tully Blanchard's dad's show. That came out. It was horrible, but I remember that came out. Yeah, that was out for a quick minute. That was on the USA Network, and then it went WWF then, and that was when they brought in, what was that, All American show?
Oh yeah, the one on Sunday.
Yeah, that came in and took over.
Man, I'd love it when
and that was awesome too, because that they started on. We'd come home on late Sunday night, and they'd start running the Madison Square Garden matches on USA Network. It was so awesome to see.
Oh yeah, now I liked All American because if I could get my parents to hurry up and get, if we were going to church, if I could get them to hurry up and bring me home, I could usually catch the last 45 minutes of it. But if they didn't feel like going to church and I got to watch the whole hour, oh boy, I was jacked up. I'm not discouraging anybody from going to church or going to church. You do whatever you want, but I'm just telling you, as a little kid, having to get dressed up on Sunday morning and wear a tie, albeit a clip on, and a starch collar, and have to sit there and listen to some preacher drone on for 15 or 20 minutes after the singing was over with is not what you call a good time for a little kid. So kudos to those who have figured that out since then and come up with these great youth ministries to help kids get through that. But, so I was just thinking about WWE. I was telling Jinky that I used to love watching primetime wrestling on USA because, like you were saying, Joey, that's when they would show the matches from Madison Square Garden. And I remember like thinking when I would watch, and don't get me wrong, Crockett's always going to have a special place because it's my local big promotion back then.
Right.
But the one thing I loved about the WWF if you could convince your parents to let you stay up and watch primetime wrestling, which was tricky if it was on a Monday night from like 8 to 10 or 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, if you could get them to let you stay up and watch it, man, the quality of matches was so much better. You would see actual competitive matches.
Yeah, because they were actually blow-offs, the ones that they build up on TV to the big event to Madison Square Garden. You got to think about that. I mean, I think about all the blow-off that when we watched the TV matches every Saturday morning. I mean, for Crockett, they were all built up to you had to spend the money and go to the big venue to see the big blow-off.
Yeah,
that was the payoff.
Yeah, that was the formula. I mean, and it's what other little kids would tell me. That's why I had to nag my poor daddy to death for about a year and a half to get him to take me to Crockett wrestling, because the other little kids that I went to school with be like, nah, dude, TV is they're just trying to get you to come to the live shows. That's where they have the good matches, man. When you go to Greensboro or you go to Roanoke, you'll see some good matches. Cause I used to think, God, man, I looked at my dad one time and I was like, where do they get these guys? Oh
yeah. You got to the point you said to yourself, it's so predictable. Ric Flair's coming out. George South's coming out. I said, okay, this guy's getting beat up right now. You already knew before it was happening that Ric Flair was going to beat George South up. You knew it right out. He's going to beat him. You didn't know how, but he's going to beat him.
Oh yeah. And then, and Bob, and I love Bob Cauley, how I sign off every week and at the live shows, but Bob Cauley used to get me all the time. He'd be like, oh boy, fans. And coming up later, we've got an exciting 6-man tag team action as Tully Blanchard will be teaming up with Arn and Ole Anderson. And you're like, all right, a 6-man. And then they get to it and it's like, all right, fans, there you see the 4 horsemen. And on the other side, we've got Starship, Eagle, George South, and Tommy Angel. And you're like, man, this ain't going to be exciting. But, they just kill me with those enhancement matches. But I remember when Hector Guerrero would come in and they put him on the side with, a couple of job guys. I shouldn't say that, enhancement talent. And they couldn't catch Hector. They tried to beat up Hector, but he was too fast, man. He wasn't having that. Yeah. Hector was awesome, man. I don't think that, it's hard to say who was better, in their prime, Hector or Eddie. But I think Eddie was a better bad guy.
Don't forget about Mondo Guerrero, though. Mondo was awesome in his day.
Where did Mondo Guerrero wrestle? Because I have not running across any of his footage online at all.
I mean, he was out there, obviously. I mean, he was the older brother, right?
Ooh, that I don't know. I'm only working on. I can't put it in my Google machine.
I'm pretty sure Mondo was the older brother.
Well,
didn't he wrestle for Munchkin Nick out of Houston?
Yeah.
Well, Muchnick was in Kansas City, right, or St. Louis?
Okay, yeah, you're right. I was thinking about that.
It was whoever it was. It was one of the border towns because he was one of the draws for. They brought in a lot of Mexicans. They'd always work against Mondo because Mondo was a steady. Was a solid hand. He'd give a solid match to whoever they put him against.
We need Michael King here because he grew up in the Mid-South area, and if he,
I'd love to see. That's another thing. I would love to talk some different territory stuff. I mean, with some different people that love stuff. I ain't gonna lie. Anyone that works at pro wrestling that wants to say that they don't love wrestling, they need to get out of the business.
Yeah, I mean, and studying the history too, and I would encourage it. You know, I know it's tough '90s. You know, for the kids that grew up on ECW and stuff in the '90s. To go back to the 80s and watch it because it was so much slower paced and everything. But you guys had really learned a lot by the way people cut promos back then and talking people into the building, you know, and being able to, you know, really draw money. The thing is, wrestling is so diluted now. It's on TV so much. It's like you think about, you got 3 hours of Raw every week, 2 hours of SmackDown every week. AEW is on for 2 hours on Wednesday, 1 hour on Friday, and they've got a marathon show called Dark on YouTube. If you want to watch, it's and then we do it.
Don't forget about what's that? The new NWA USA, which I'm actually really enjoying. I've been watching that when I get a chance.
Yeah, I saw Power had come out. I hadn't watched the USA show yet.
Yeah, that's the new one that come out after.
And
it has what's her name? Ruby Sky. She's playing the she's playing the good girl offshoot color commentary kind of deal.
Oh yeah, I've heard her.
She puts up with Mr. Austin Idol.
Yeah, it's great that he's still involved in the business.
Yeah, he's there in the middle too, and he's got his Technicolor shirts on, looking great.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. I did not realize all the money that him and Jerry Lawler drew in Memphis until recent years. And I've gone back and looked at that stuff and what, you know, say what you want about Memphis wrestling, man, but you know, Ricky Morton got started there. Jim Cornette got started there. You know, Robert and Ricky Gibson, I think, started in Pensacola. But so many people got their starts there. And of course, Memphis to me will always be best known for the Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman feud. Yeah. Cause that was just absolutely fantastic. I saw somebody posted on Twitter the other day where Andy Kaufman cut the promo with the soap, showing the people in Memphis how to use soap. It's just,
he was beating up girls before that in the ring.
Yeah. There was I don't think you can get it anymore, but there used to be a DVD that Amazon sold that it was a documentary about that entire thing. And they had all the original footage, and it's like 2 hours long, and it just goes through the entire feud step by step, how Andy showed up in the territory wrestling women and how Lawler called him out. And, you know, Andy at first refused to wrestle Lawler, saying, no, I only wrestle women. I'm the intergender champion, and da-da-da-da-da. And how, you know, they finally got him in the ring and Lawler pile drove him, and it just goes from there. And it was fantastic. And I wish I'd have got my hands on it, but I didn't. And I think it's out of print now. So, but yeah, if we're talking Houston wrestling, that's Paul Bosch back in the day before he retired.
There you go, Paul. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I say I wish Michael King was here, because he grew up in the Mid-South area. Well,
everything came out of the Houston booking office, though.
No,
what's his name? Playboy Gary Hart was head booker for Fritz out of the Houston office for years.
Really?
Or was it the Dallas office?
Well, now, Fritz Von Erich was Dallas. Paul
Dallas,
Bosch
out of Sportatorium. Yeah, that's what it was, though. Yeah.
And I've heard, and we talked about the Sportatorium a little bit last week. What a good looking TV venue it was.
Yeah, but they had rats bigger than dogs underneath all the bleachers, and he said he never cleaned up under there.
Well, I mean, it was Texas. Everybody was it was armed.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah,
I know. I wouldn't want to go under there if I was at 12 o'clock at night and clean under bleachers. I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
I'm telling you, I would have been, Daddy, I want to go to wrestling tonight. Can I take your pistol? Sure. It's Texas. Sure, son. So make sure the safety's on.
Will you ever see the video of Dusty Rhodes when he talks about it? He said it was a regular thing growing up. He said Daddy would pick me up Friday. He goes, he'd go cash his check. We'd go get a country fried steak and iced tea, and we go to the matches.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I wish I would have been there. That would have been great. God.
Oh yeah, no. I always tell my wife, I was like, man, if you think I go to a lot of wrestling now, if you put me in a time machine and I had the same income I do now and lived in this part of the country in the late 70s, early 80s, and I'm the same age then as I am now, God, man, we'd be going to so many Crockett Promotions events. I mean, Greensboro, Charlotte, all the little TV tapings. She might probably divorce me. Because I'd be wanting to go to wrestling so much. I told her, I'll be like, because I'll read some of these got Graham Coughlin's book around here somewhere. I'll read her some of the results, from back in the day. Sometimes I'll be like, if this show was on tonight, can we go like that? And she's like, I don't know. I'm pretty tired after work. So it's like a fun game we play, if wrestling was still in the territory days, how many times would I want to go a week?
So that would have been fun. And one promotion that we haven't really said much about was the old AWA. I never seen none of that until it happened to be on ESPN because, up in the North Midwest or whatever, locally, you didn't get, I didn't know that much about Bockwinkel, Gagne, the very early days of Ric Flair and Steamboat and all them that come out of that area. That was an interesting time too.
They drew some good crowds in Minneapolis, man. I don't know
who my favorite AWA wrestler was. Of course, it goes back to the Bill Apter mag, Baron von Raschke with the claw.
Oh yeah.
When I actually got to see him for the first time, like you say, on AWA when it was on ESPN, and he come out with the mask, the hood down, and he was old then,
Yeah. And he worked the Crockett territory too for a while in the 70s and then came back in the 80s too. So, that was back when, the territory days was so good for wrestlers, man, because they could bounce around. If you lose steam in Charlotte, man, go to Minneapolis and work for a couple, 6 months or a year, and then go to Texas and work for 6 months or a year. And, you could just about do anything.
Do you remember?
No forbidden door.
I've watched video before when they talk about the Crockett and how Crockett used to be a tag team. You talked about it was tag team.
Yeah.
That was the bread and butter. Does anybody know exactly when it switched over from the tag team to go to the singles so much?
After Big Jim Crockett passed away in 1973. And then it was God, I hope David Crockett doesn't see this. He probably won't.
Talking about his son-in-law that took over.
Yeah, his son-in-law who was married to Frances.
That lost it all because he got caught with his pants down.
Yes, he did. Yes, he was having an affair with a flight attendant for Eastern Airlines, I believe, as a matter of fact.
Well,
John Ringley.
I hope that tail was good because he threw away a big freaking check with that one. Man,
he did. And I've never met Frances, but I've heard people talk about it. She's really, really nice. Had a great mind for promoting baseball. So, so that was when it started with John Ringley, and then he was out, and then Jimmy Jr. took over, and he had the final say. But I mean, his brothers, David and Jackie had influence in the promotion, and it's started to move slowly toward more singles action. But tag teams were always a big part of Crockett Promotions, even into the 80s near the end.
Well, one thing about Crockett, now I like Dusty Rhodes as a competitor, as a mic person, but no offense, but he wasn't exactly the best booker they ever had. From what I heard.
Well, I'd have to disagree with you, and I think the numbers would have to disagree with you, Bobby, because when he came in '84, business was down. And if you look at some of the TV tapings, because at the time that Dusty came in as booker, Dory Funk Jr. was booking, and it was not bad. It was just people didn't want to see it for some reason. And Dusty was able to, throughout 1984, change the whole landscape of Crockett Promotions. And they started really building a lot of momentum in 1985. And then 86 was their most successful year. And then 87, it started going downhill. And then 88, the wheels fell off. I think Dusty was just burned out because right by then he had been booking for 4 years. And I'm sorry, everybody knows Dusty was a genius. Dusty made a lot of people
he made a lot of money, but at the same time, he spent a lot of money to make money, and a lot of times didn't make the money that he should have made.
Right.
A lot of times. They also spent a lot of stupid money that they thought was supposed to make money off big pay-per-views that never came in. Big contracts that were signed that couldn't get paid off. I mean, it was bad at the end.
Yeah, it was. And I remember even as a kid, like thinking like
they said they were millions in the hole before they even realized they were that bad off.
Yeah, they were about 6 or 7 million in the hole before they figured it out. And that was the long around March or April of '88. Funny thing about that was I even remember as a little kid thinking, I started watching in '86. Oh boy, this is awesome. '87, okay, was good, but then I remember that they moved Starrcade to Chicago in '87, and I just remember even as a little kid thinking that was an odd thing to do.
It was stupid. Stupid. Starrcade was always Carolinas.
Yeah, Greensboro. Yeah. And they did the double show in '85 and '86, and part of it was in Atlanta. But that was fine. You drew two houses that way, so I get it, but. I always thought that was weird. And then I found out years later, then the WWF comes out with Survivor Series, right? And to purposely sabotage Starrcade. Mm-hmm. And then Vince tells the cable companies, which he wouldn't have done it, but everybody knows the story. He told the cable companies, you carry that, I'm not going to let you have WrestleMania.
I could see him doing that. Why wouldn't he? At the end of the day, it's business.
Yeah, exactly.
I would see him doing it. If I was a promoter, I would do the same thing. You carry them, you can't carry me.
And they were coming off WrestleMania.
They'd have a choice of either giving you the big, hey, screw you, or bowing down. And he said there was only like one company out of California was the only one that didn't bow down. They actually said, no, we're carrying it.
Well, it was where Dave Meltzer lives. He had called them up and they promised him they would carry it. And then there was a few places. Jim Cornette says there was a few cable companies in the Carolinas and Virginia that carried it. And they even moved the start time to like 4:30 in the afternoon. And if you go on Peacock and watch the beginning of Starrcade '87, you can see there's a lot of empty seats, man. So I mean, it filled up eventually, but I think people maybe they didn't know the show started. So right. I don't know. So we are about to be joined by Commissioner Rick Diesel.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah, celebrity coming on here now.
This ought to be fun.
But so it's real interesting the rise and fall of Crockett Promotions, but it difficult to look at, but God, man, they put on some good wrestling shows for many years, Yeah. And they I've even heard Cornette say it lives like the Cadillac of wrestling territories. So
you ever listen to any of his podcasts?
Who, Cornette? Yeah.
Dakota Cornette. I follow him on a regular.
Well, he gets deep, don't he?
Oh, yeah. He's over opinionated, but he's old school through and through. I mean, honestly, I think if some of the wrestling and the ideas that he had went back to wrestling would be better on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm typing, guys.
Yeah, I'm laying down because I'm tired, okay? That's what was just asked from me.
Leave me alone. I'm working overtime over here.
Well,
Mail, Bobby.
Honestly, I've had a mini quarantine this week too.
Oh, did you get the COVID?
No, but I was fortunate, but last weekend it was rough, but I managed through. So come our next show, I'll be fine. I'll be healthy. I'll be ready to roll. I just taking precautions.
Okay, I got you. Nothing wrong with that, man. This thing's spreading like wildfire. But so it's really cool. Like go back and talk about the old territory stuff. Let's see. We talked about AWA, and you saw Joey. You actually saw Southwest, and you said it was terrible. But
oh yeah,
one that I have never seen, but I've always heard that was real terrible was actually the AWA's syndicated television show that they ran in in Minnesota all the way out to Nevada, and then like the northern plains states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, because that was a pretty big territory, a really big territory. But I've heard that their syndicated show was absolute garbage. I don't know if any of you guys ever saw that, because I'm like you. The only AWA I saw was the ESPN show.
Yeah, the majority of all the AWA that I've seen ever since is videos that's been posted, on YouTube and on I can see on, but that's about the gist of it.
Yeah. One territory I think that and again, I say this, I kind of wish Michael King was here to tell us about Mid-South territory, because that was, if there was ever a territory that is easy for a guy to get cut in, I think it would have been Mid-South, because the stories that I hear Cornette tell of some of the towns down there, Houma comes to mind, is just, it's enough to make your blood run cold. I mean, talk about getting white hot heat, having people come and, put Clorox and water pistols and try to shoot you in the eyes when you're coming to the ring. I mean, that's just Louisiana seemed like a rough territory.
I seen they talked about when they used to throw D batteries at the ring.
Can you imagine?
Imagine getting hit with a D battery.
No, and at that velocity and distance.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it puts you down pretty easy.
Oh, yeah.
I
can imagine some of the wrestlers, they talked about how violent Puerto Rico was.
Oh, yeah. Man, if you listen to any of Ron Fuller's stories about Puerto Rico,
they said they would bring rocks into the venue and throw big rocks at you.
Yeah.
And they didn't like you. Well, imagine that. They didn't like the performance that you did. They'd throw rocks at you, literally.
I can't imagine.
You make sure that you pop the crowd that night. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
You go home with a lump in the back of your head, literally.
Yeah.
It should work for your money back then.
Roddy Piper told a story about going down there working for Carlos one night, and they were actually in an indoor venue. And like the rule of thumb down there was that the crowd would almost always go crazy, like get really violent if the bad guys got the upper hand at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. And he said that him and Ric Flair did something to one of their top stars one night and left him laying in the ring, and they were the last thing out. And they beat the guy up and left the ring. And when they got back to the back, and the people are throwing stuff and everything, and they're coming out, and they get back in the back, and Carlos looks at him and is like, "Hey man, why did you guys beat that guy up, man? You could have just left, and let it be." And he said, "Now we're going to have a riot out there." And Piper said, I looked at Carlos and was like, well, when you come back next month, there'll be even more people here. They'll really want to buy tickets next month. And so he said that Carlos was not happy. He was like, "Dude, what are you trying to do? Get us all killed?"
Yeah.
They were serious about their wrestling down there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, rough crowd. I've always wanted to ask Jim Cornette, but I've never sent the email because their numbers are so many. They get so many questions for that drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wanted to ask Cornette, where in the Crockett territory, like you told us about Houma, you told us about some of these other places in Louisiana and Oklahoma and Arkansas that were dangerous in Mid-South. But where in the Crockett territory would you go that when you saw it on the calendar, you're like, oh man, I hope we can get out of there alive? I mean, I've heard him tell about, the Malkies down in, where's it at? Down in Greenville. It's down there next to Greenville. I cannot think of the name of the place where the Mulkey brothers are from.
Aren't they from Appleby? Appy, what is it? Something.
I don't know. They ran a house show down there one night.
And Maccabee? Ain't they from Maccabee, South Carolina?
I'd have to look it up, but I don't have another screen. Spartanburg? No, they weren't Spartanburg.
No, they weren't from Spartanburg.
They were from it's a town. The town Cornette was talking about is on the other side of Greenville, like still going down 85. But anyway, they had a show down there that night, and they had built it up on TBS. That the Mulkey brothers were going up.
Are you talking about the big build up of Mulkey Mania?
Yeah, and then the Midnights cheated and won the match, and Cornette said that him and Stan and Bobby had went ahead and put their bags next to the door. And as soon as the match was over, before the ring announcer even made the announcement, they ran out of the building, got in the car. And as they were coming around the front of the building to pull back onto the road to get out of there, he said, "Here come the fans." And they had their torches and their pitchforks. And they were coming
God, that was a good time.
Love that story.
God.
With Jim Cornette, I can believe it.
Were they from Anderson, South Carolina?
That's it. Anderson.
That was it.
Yep. Anderson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when I went to original NWA Legends Fan Fest, and the Mulkeys were right at the front, and I was working security then, and I seen the Mulkeys, and I made a big to-do. I said, "Are you the Mulkeys?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." I said, "Really? The Mulkeys from NWA?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was making a big to-do about them being the Mulkeys. And I was like, "Man, can I get an autograph from you?" And I said, "Man, I got some money." And I said, he was like, yeah. And they were signing autographs. And next thing you know, they had a line of people coming up to get the Mulkey's autograph. And, and the guy walked over. He said, "Brother, tell me you're a worker." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tell me you're not really a big Mulkey fan like that." I said, "Well, I love the Mulkeys, but I was trying to help you sell some pictures, brother." He said, "Man, I appreciate that."
Awesome. That's awesome.
Because no one's making a big deal of the Mulkeys.
Yeah.
To me, they were a good tag team. They didn't have any kind of defense. They took one hell of a beating, though. God.
Oh yeah, they took some wild bumps, man. I seen beautiful Bobby take Bill Mulkey and throw him through the ropes at the TBS studios, and that dude did not grab rope, did not grab nothing but air on his way to the floor. I mean, and just smacked the floor of that TV studio. So you're talking about the Fan Fest. That Fan Fest is coming back to Charlotte. It's been back the last couple of years.
That's a different one. That's a different one. I was talking about the NWA Legends Fan Fest. That one is the hell is the name of them?
I don't know, but I know the hotel it's going to be at.
Yeah, it's the third one. This is their third one that they're doing. Yeah, and I'm already supposed to be booked at that one too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. I know everybody, it's 2022. I mean, there's only so many more to the legends that are with us. But is this a good thing to show up to if you want to network?
Oh, they showed them, and they showed that they got a pretty good lineup coming in for it. Yeah, definitely.
But last year Brian Last showed up there, and Conrad Thompson's been there a couple of times, and what I'm basically looking for is somebody who can give me some helpful hints. But
they had a good lineup last year. They had a good lineup last year, that was for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sunday I wasn't booked Sunday because it was pretty well over by Sunday. The only thing that was left Sunday were some of the bigger names were still there. Like when I was leaving, Jimmy, the Mouth of the South was still there. And he was doing an autograph and had a big line waiting to get his autograph.
Yeah, so Greg Price runs. Does he ran the old one or runs the new
he ran the old one.
Okay.
Yeah, he's nowhere to be found in the new one. Matter of fact, I seen that he tried to get a table there to bring some woman wrestler in. It didn't say who, but I guess he started such a hassle last year when someone got canceled that he said, "No, you're not welcome at our Fan Fest. Don't even come around. They're denied him his venue table."
Well, I've never met the guy, but over the years I've heard a few things. So
I'm not going to talk bad about someone but I don't have
never met him.
I don't have any good words to say about Greg Price. I've had bad business dealings with him in the past, and we've actually getting. I'm one of the few people I can actually say I got into a physical fist fight with Greg Price.
Oh mercy!
So,
well, that's not good. If people are shady when it comes to business and money, I have learned that they will be shady about everything else.
Yeah, The Gathering. It's going to be The Gathering 3 this year.
Yeah, I was thinking about going, if nothing else, just a network, but Greg, it's a tad shady. I'm getting comments on the message board here. But yeah, I was thinking about going for networking purposes, if nothing else.
But it isn't run by Greg. That Greg's gone. He's a memory. He's like I said, they even turned him down. He tried to get a table to bring somebody in, but they're not even letting him do that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And he's got sour grapes, to say the least, because I mean, he's basically watching what he created, somebody else do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, it is what it is. So, speaking of some AIWF news before we go, because we're over time, and I want to let everybody get out of here. We want to leave you wanting a little bit more to next week. Hopefully, next week we'll have some matches for the announcements for the big February 5th show coming up in Mount Airy. Also, want to let you know on the AIWF Roku channel. Check it out. All my people back home in Martinsville, there are 2 of the Cable 6 shows available now on the Roku channel from spring of 1996. Now, one of them, the second one that I was watching the other night, at about 30 or 40 minutes into it, the picture froze. Was that on my end, or did y'all see that too?
That might have been your end, because I watched it, didn't freeze up or anything on my end.
Episode 2, the one where Rick Diesel interviews the lady wrestler, is that the one?
Yeah, I didn't see it freeze up. Maybe I didn't watch it all the way through the duration that you watched it through, though.
I was looking to see. We need to maybe check on that. And also, so I have been teasing AIWF Network producer Kevin Phoenix for I'd say a little over a month now about not being able to deliver and I was actually going to start a segment on the show if given approval by AIWF leadership, called "What Lies Did Kevin Phoenix Tell Me This Week?" So, but we're not going to do that because we found out not only, Kevin Phoenix was in episode 1 of The Righteous Gemstones, although if you blink, you may miss him. He is in the scene, season 2, episode 1, at the beginning when the preacher is running down the hall and he says he's going to kill himself by jumping off the balcony. I have been told that you can see Kevin Phoenix in the background of that shot. He's only in there for about a second, but he is there. Also, Kevin Phoenix had told us that he was going to have seasons meetings up on the Roku channel the day, like 2 days after the show. What has happened, and I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds with this, but I want to let all the fans know what was going on. That there's an issue with the technology. For some reason, when you play the video, the produced, edited version of the video, the sound gets out of sync with the video, right? And so it's like the sound will be delayed by a half a second or something like that. Half a second doesn't sound like much, but believe me, when you're watching something on TV, you notice that. And I have, they're being worked on. There's a device that actually can be purchased that will remedy that. And so Kevin Phoenix and the other producers at the network are working really hard to get that cleared up and to get those shows on the air. So it's just a technology issue. It's not that Kevin Phoenix is not trying. He's actually working really hard to get this program on the air. So
Matt Carter, it seems to me you're the only one that has a problem with Kevin Phoenix in the network and his productivity of not getting the shows uploaded. The rest of us are just sitting here eagerly waiting to see ourselves on the network. You're the one that keeps talking about it. Do you have some problem with Kevin Phoenix? You should just put it up there. Let's talk about it.
Well, I'm not going to stay here all night about it, but yeah, I do have a problem with people in a wrestling business making promises they can't deliver on. You know, I've been around this business a long time, and you know, Joey, you've been in this business longer than I have. That is just the most annoying thing in the world. You're going to tell me you're going to do something, do it. Don't tell me this is what we're going to do. Let's make it happen and then talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, but this is pro wrestling. Let's be honest. It's like school lunch. It's subject to change. We put it at the bottom of the flyer for a reason.
Well, either way, look, the problem is being worked on. So fans, the Roku channel, you're going to get these shows. We just got to figure out the technical difficulties. And
I myself am eagerly waiting to watch the shows myself. So
I am too, man. I want him to get some of the ones from the 90s up there, like the actual live events. The talk show's great, because if you've never seen that old Cable 6 talk show, let me tell you, Rick Diesel came to Martinsville and took that town by storm. That TV show was, and I'm not just saying that because he's in the room. Anybody that knows has watched that old TV show. The calls came back to back.
Mm-hmm.
The TV station owner loved him and still talks about wanting to interview him again to this day. That show, it was appointment television on Saturdays at 11 a.m. And what was great was at that time you could watch WWF Mania at 10, flip over and watch Rick Diesel at 11. And then you could usually find like a WCW syndicated show on after that.
God, the good old days.
Oh man, yeah. So it was a good time to be a wrestling fan, no doubt about it. And see, Rick Diesel would tell you the inside stuff that you couldn't hear anywhere else. He was like the gossip sheets before the internet, and so like, hey, somebody would call him and be like, hey, I hadn't I seen Vader on WCW, and Rick Diesel would be like, oh, he's negotiating with WWF right now. You should see him pop up in the next few weeks. And he would find out stuff that the magazines didn't even have. So I cannot encourage you enough, even if you're not from the Martinsville area, to go on there and check out those shows. They are fantastic, and I've been told that we're going to get a new one every week. So cross our fingers on that deal. But I certainly hope so. Those shows were a lot of fun, and near late '96, early '97, you'll see me when I was actually thin appear on those shows. So that's something for you. But I still want you to watch regardless. Don't let that stop you just because I'm going to show up. It won't be for a while. Everybody's quiet. All these mouths that I've actually talked y'all to death. Over the last time.
We're just listening.
I'm just listening, watching the time click away.
I did have a bowl cut back then. That's right. Rick Diesel pointed out in the chat that I had a bowl cut back then.
You were the king of the bowl cut, I heard.
Well, I wore it like that because I didn't like to put product in my hair that much. I never have. But like when I started appearing on TV, I would, I had a lot more hair back then. And so I would kind of get it like a Conan poof, and let the bangs hang down like this. And
I can't wait to see this footage.
dude, I'm telling you, before I'll tell you this, when I got on that show, I had a friend named Tammy that was a hairdresser, right? And what I would do is if I had to work every other Saturday at the job I had at the time working on cars. So I would go see Tammy when I would get off work at 12. And this is, let's see, 11 a.m. was the Cable 6 show. When we moved to Channel 5, that we moved to 1 p.m. But I remember when we moved to Channel 5, I could actually leave my job, go down to where Tammy worked at. She would style my hair, right? I would drive back, stop at Wendy's, get a bacon mushroom melt, and drive to the TV station and do the show at 1 o'clock. And then my hair, even Rick Diesel will tell you, my hair was perfect back then. And it would not move. I don't know what kind of spray gel or mousse she put on that stuff, but it wouldn't move until I washed it out. It would not move, unless somebody just came up and rubbed my head or whatever. Right. But I would, I always beg them not to do that. And so, but now I got a thin spot right here, and you can see it doesn't grow as much as it used to. He
did, Rick Diesel. He was a big star, had his own hairstylist that he'd go see.
Yeah.
Did you have your own chair that said Matt Carter on the back of it too?
No, but I need to be able to tilt the camera to show you my office chair from when I work, but because that's a real nice one. But no, that was an advertisement. For the way she looked at it was an advertisement, because when people would ask me at the shows, hey, who does your hair? Especially, believe it or not, like a lot of girls would approach me and be like, wow, who does your hair? And I tell them, hey, it's a place down in Bassett, and give them the name of the place. And so they looked at it as free advertising, and I appreciated it. I appreciated it. Yeah. Rick Diesel actually was in the ring with me one night, and he walks up to me. They're getting ready to cut a promo, him and Brian Danzig and Daniel Mays. And it's a Bassett Community Center, and he walks up because I think it was hot that night, right? So everybody's sweating. My hair is not moving, dude. I'm telling you, it was blue. And he walks up to me at the beginning of that promo, and he touches my hair, and he just says in the microphone, "Your hair is amazing." And then he turns to the crowd and starts cutting the promo. I'll never forget that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the good old days.
Those were the days when I was a young, brash announcer, and Reagan Tate will tell you I was a dick at times, but oh well. Anyway, so thanks guys for joining us. We're way over time. We've been reminiscing. Hey, if you got suggestions for topics that when we don't have wrestlers and stuff coming on here that you'd like us to talk
myself, like I said before, I'd like to find some different AIWF matches from some of the different affiliates in the different around the different territories, and be able to play a match and be able to sit there and watch a match each event on each one of these shows.
Well, let's get on
we need to also get some of these affiliates, some of the wrestlers from the different affiliates somehow to come on to the show, especially some of the ones that might be coming up on March. Yeah, I would love to talk about some of the March different matches that are coming up with some of the wrestlers.
Well, I can't get a lot of these prima donnas to do TV right now. And so, but look, guys, that's true. Well, maybe we need to get in the AIWF network and reach out and see. And I'd love to have Matt Classic coming on, since he's going to have a big part in the anniversary show. And just talk about that, because we got a lot of things going on for 2022.
Got to see if we can get the world heavyweight champion Damian Wayne to come back on.
I'm sure he will. He was one of my first guests way back in the day. Way back in the day, like 2021. Anyway, but yeah, folks, if there's any topics or anything you guys want us to cover, put them in the comments on the Mid-Atlantic page. We'll got any questions, we'll answer those. Just anything you want us to talk about, wrestling related. I'm glad to talk to you about it. And that's about all I've got, gentlemen. Any closing words before we hit the road tonight? We're over time.
Support your indie companies no matter where you are in the world.
That's right. And everybody right now, please be safe. No, I did not fall off the couch.
He woke up, Rick.
You fans can't see the chat, but Rick Diesel is adding commentary in here.
It's the best.
Yes, it is. Man livens up any TV show when he comes on it, even if he doesn't appear on it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to look out for this on YouTube sometime tomorrow, hopefully. If we can get our producer Smokey in South Carolina to get on the stick for us, and we will get this on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. For Bobby Dalton, Rick Diesel, and of course the Prophet Joey Nuggs. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you at the matches, and until next time, so long for now.
See ya.